going to try and talk about 4 big things today. Oh, it's really disconcerting. I can't actually see any of you, but I know you're out there. I'm going to talk about sharing ideas, and this is a sort of an awesome room to share ideas with. I apologise, I've never been more nervous as a speaker. I speak all the time, but you guys really scare the crap out of me. I don't know why. But anyway, I'm going to do my best to try and pull together some ideas about sharing ideas and talking about some of the barriers and why I think those barriers are really dumb things for us to have. This is me. I have a couple of day jobs. My first day job is I'm the Director of Digital at the British Film Institute, BFI. My other day job is that I'm the co-director of a very, very little company called Art Public. We make art that helps other people make and share their art. The project we're working on at the moment is called Bus Stops. Please go and have a look at it. We're super, super excited about it. And if you want to talk back during this, I notice lots of you are writing on pen and paper, but if you'd like to share your ideas and your thoughts a little more broadly and you're on Twitter, that's me. I would love to join the conversation after I've got down off the stage broadcasting to you. So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk to you about sort of what I think are the kind of the highlights as to how we share ideas, just how we go about it. And the most obvious way that we share ideas is that we just translate our thoughts into actions. And this is a really, really simple action that talks about and transmits how we're thinking. It's a smile. Watching kids is a really awesome way of following the trajectory of how we share ideas. Because when they're pre-verbal, they only have one way they can share ideas, and it's to translate it directly into action. Dance is another really, really cool way of thinking about how we translate our thoughts and ideas, and we share those through physical action. So physical meme like dance is a really, really powerful way of sharing ideas. I do a style of dancing called swing dancing. No, I'm not going to do any up on the stage. And it's really fascinating to me to watch the kind of physical meme and how it travelled around the world during the Second World War. Because soldiers, wherever they went, they took that physical meme with them and they shared it with people around them. I apologise, I keep whacking the microphone. And so swing dancing is literally all over the world in weird little pockets. You go to Brisbane in Queensland in Australia and there's swing dancers who've been swing dancing since the Second World War. So physical memes are a really, really cool way that we share idea. And of course the really obvious one is that we talk about ideas and we share ideas by telling someone. And you know, we've sort of, as soon as we developed language, that was a way for us to actually do that. We got a little better at actually being able to tell a lot more people. So pre-technology, we'd do it like this, and then as we got a little brighter with our technology, we could talk to more and more people using microphones. We show people ideas, we teach people ideas, and then we did something I think that's really, really cool, is that we took ideas and we moved from ephemeral sharing of ideas and we started to translate them into actually objects, artifacts of ideas. And this was proved to be a really powerful way of sharing ideas. It was something that we could leave or physically give someone. They could reverse engineer something like this and understand actually some of the ideas that went into it. The really cool thing, of course, is that they still are being found today. So actually we have an understanding of what the kinds of things that people were thinking about, the ideas that they were having. This particular example is thought to be from 3.4 million years ago. That's really exciting to me that I actually get to see and understand some of the thinking that was going on that long ago. Then we got really, really adventurous and started doing some very, very cool things and started conceptualizing our ideas, and we started painting them on walls. And then we started developing technology that allowed us to really, really start to share ideas in a very profound way. So, you know, the Gutenberg Press really, really kind of put the kicker in the J-curve when you start to compare what the monks were able to do in terms of sharing ideas and what that printing press was actually able to do in terms of sharing ideas. I promise you there was really, really no weird subconscious thought going on when I chose this particular image. Then we discovered broadcast, an incredibly powerful way of sharing ideas as well. Kind of a slightly weird aberrance, actually, because in sharing the ideas, we kind of concentrated those who could do the sharing to a very small group of people, and we tended to turn ourselves into folks who kind of received ideas, as opposed to kind of engaged and had that sort of conversation around ideas. But then something really super cool happened. Thank you very much, Satim. This is the internet. I hope you can kind of get a sense of it. This is a picture that was taken or created, a few years ago. It represents the sort of the nodes in the network. I apologise you can't see it so great, but I'd be happy to show people this later on. And what this did was it created an extraordinary, and continues to create extraordinary opportunities for us to share ideas. Okay, so when we're talking about sharing ideas, we have to talk about one particular idea that we came up with in the early 1700s. And this was this idea that if you actually expressed and captured an idea, you should be able to have some sense of ownership over the expression of that idea. And you should be able to exploit that idea for a period of time to the exclusion of anyone else. That's a very complicated way of saying that in 1709 we thought it would be a good idea to develop a legal construct called copyright. Literally, the right to copy, copyright. When the Statute of Anne was developed, the idea was that if you expressed an idea, primarily if you wrote down an idea, you would have the exclusive right to issue the right to copy, to create copies of that work. Statute of Anne said that we could do that, you would have that right, that monopoly over the expression of that idea for 14 years. If you were still alive at the end of those 14 years, you could go back up and re-up for another 14 years. And that was it. You had 28 years in total to own that idea and to have the right to exploit it. As the years went by, however, people started to recognise that 28 years, I get to the end of my 28 years, maybe I'd kind of like some more. Interestingly, it was rarely the person who created that idea, who originally wrote that idea down, the author of the idea. It was often the people who had bought the right to that idea and the expression of that idea, the publishers, etc., who got to the end of the 28 years and went, you know what, I'd really like a little bit longer to have a monopoly over the expression of this idea and a monopoly over the right to be able to create and sell or exploit copies of this. So over the years, that monopoly period has grown and grown and grown until today. We are in an environment where if you write an idea down, so all of you who are writing ideas down, I'm going to get you to do something in a moment, but as you're writing that idea down, a couple of really interesting things are happening. One, the act of writing that idea down automatically means that writing is under copyright. You have to do nothing. You don't have to tell anyone. You don't have to register it. You automatically have that piece of writing under copyright. Good, we say? That could be a good thing. The challenge is that copyright is now in place for the rest of your life, plus 70 years. So after you've died, somehow you still retain the copyright to that piece of writing. So you can start to see that this might be a little problematic, which brings me to my next thought. When you have a world in which the expression of ideas are bounded by a legal construct that says for the lifetime of the author plus 70 years, there is only one, the owner of that copyright is the only one that can actually exploit that idea, you can start to see that there's a risk that we create idea ghettos. That actually there's this sort of bodies of work that we just never get to explore. And that might be, quite frankly, because, for most of us, the little doodles I do in my notebook, you don't really want to have access to those. You really don't. But when we start thinking about our culture and the expression of our culture, it starts to become for me, a very big deal. I have spent most of my professional paid work working in organisations, media organisations. I started in newspapers, I worked in a broadcaster, now I work in a cultural organisation. And the reason that I really enjoy working in media organisations is because I like poking at them around new media and what's possible on the internet, but actually really much more profoundly, it's because they are extraordinary repositories of cultural heritage, our cultural sense of who we are. So if we think about the BBC, for example, BBC within its archives has 1 million hours of radio and television sitting within its archive. That's the cultural heritage of British media for the 20th century, right there. Thinking about that, and then thinking about that little idea ghetto that we've created around legal framework that says, actually, it's really challenging for the BBC to be able to make that available using this fantastic new technology we have that for the first time means that we could actually really meaningfully connect each of us to those expression of ideas that make up our cultural heritage. It's really difficult because they have to go and find every single author in every piece of that work, and they have to have a conversation with them and get permission to be able to use that work. It gets even trickier when they're dead. I mean, how do we find them? So you will have heard some people talking, well, you may not. I spend a lot of time hanging out with folks who are law geeks. They talk a lot about orphan works. And orphan works are where we don't know who the author is. But that copyright still exists, even if I don't know who created the work that I'm trying to open up. So that means I can't do anything with it. It's just sitting on the shelf. I don't even know if they're alive or dead. I don't know if the 70 years has kicked in. I don't know. But I can't use it in case it's still under copyright. So my big fear is that we are effectively locking down the cultural heritage of the 20th century. Something that you create today, an expression of your idea that you create today, under the terms that I've just described, wouldn't be available. I don't have the number in front of me and I can't do the math in my head because I'm really bad at math. Somewhere in the 2100s. In other words, you're dead. Your kids probably wouldn't be able to get access to that idea that you express today either. The internet does this extraordinary thing, which is it not only allows us to connect to ideas, it allows us to connect to each other in really, I think, incredibly exciting ways. And what's missing in that space at the moment is the kind of cultural fuel. Where is that kind of cultural building blocks? When I was at the BBC, I called it fuel for a creative nation. I was a bit jargony, sorry. But the sense was there. This is actually what makes us who we are, and being able to critically engage with that in ways that fuels the conversations that are made possible by the internet and by the web, for me, is very exciting. It's thrilling. It's what I would really like to be able to do. I want to just share one quick final thought. Zoe's not looking at me with intent yet, so that's good. Which is, more generally, hopefully you've got a sense of some of the issues that I have around creating these idea ghettos. But if you want to get me really, really incensed, it's at the point where these ghettos are actually paid for by us, by public money. So I worked for the BBC, I currently work for the BFI. I have typically worked for publicly funded organisations, and they have, over generations, so my nana, my mum, and now me, and now my goddaughter, are all paying money to making sure that our cultural heritage is captured and preserved and made available. Surely the end of that investment has got to be made available. Most of cultural heritage archives have a little fine print in them, and it's this really fantastic phrase where they are aiming to hold in trust for future generations. And I suppose for me, I'm kind of hoping that my nana really bought into that idea and that I'm actually that future generation, that it has been held in trust until the technology was in place that actually allowed me to have meaningful engagement with that cultural heritage that she helped pay to create and preserve all these years. So I talk about the return on public investment. We really suck as shareholders. We're not very good at sticking our hands up and saying, you know what, we invested in the creation of this cultural heritage. It was us that paid the licence fee. It was us that paid the DCMS tax that goes to the BFI. It was us that actually made sure that we kept this cultural heritage because we thought it was something incredibly important and it said something about who we are as a people, and as in a particular case of the BFI and BBC as a nation. And now we've got the technology, and now we can actually meaningfully engage with it. And now we create a legal construct that makes that really, really challenging for us to be able to actually match that technology potential with that cultural heritage that we have paid for. So I was asked to sort of think about a to-do list, kind of, I guess, appropriate, but nowhere near as robust as it should be. I'm pretty sure I only got the capture bit. I haven't quite got the rest yet. But so I have duly created a to-do list. These are as much a to-do list for me as they are for you. So the first thing I would like you to do is I would like you to be really, really thoughtful about when you express your own ideas, when you express your own personal culture, be very, very thoughtful about how you want people to engage with that. It's absolutely fine if you decide that you want to put the full weight of copyright behind that and you want to absolutely control and manage how people engage with it. But if you think it might be interesting to have people being able to perhaps take that idea, make a copy of it, maybe do something a little different with it, then think about signalling your intention. There are a couple of really neat frameworks. Creative Commons is one of them. OKFN, quick caveat, I'm on the board for OKFN, so disclosure. Has a really great definition for open content licensing. Creative Commons allows you to put a mark on your work that simply says, I give you permission to do the following things. And you decide what those things are, ranging from, you know what, you can take this, you can make a copy of it, you can distribute it as far as you want. All I ask is that you give me credit. You put my name as being the source for that original expression of that idea, right the way through to, it's okay for you to take a copy of this and pass it on, but I don't want you to touch it, I don't want you to do anything with it, it's got to stay intact. So that would be the first thing I would ask. So for all of you who are frantically writing in your notebooks, at the end of the day, please go to the front of your notebook, think about the contents of that notebook, and think about whether you would like someone to be able to pick it up and do something interesting with it, should they find it, like make a copy. The second thing is I really want you to engage in the copyright debate. I know this is a big ask because whenever you hear copyright, I just know, even though I can't see your faces, that you're going, yeah. So what I want you to do is when you hear somebody talking about copyright, I want you to ask the question, does it need to be as long as it is? Do I need to actually exercise that monopoly for as long as it currently is? So if there's only one aspect that you engage in the copyright debate, it's the length of the term of copyright. A terrific organisation that can help you engage in that debate is the Open Rights Group. They do some fantastic work here in the UK and they've got lots of great material that can help you sort of get started in thinking about copyright and how it might work. The third thing that I really want you to do is stand up for your rights as a shareholder in your cultural heritage. I really, really want you to be asking the question, where is my 20th century? Why don't I have access to that slice of cultural heritage? Where is it? Why aren't I able to engage with it? Why isn't it part of my conversational space? And then finally, and with profound apologies to Hallmark Cards for the cheesiness of this, I just want you to carry this idea around that we don't leave any ideas behind. I don't want the 20th century to be this funny little, dark age period where there are no records available for us to engage with and have a discourse around, critique and understand how we came to be who we are. I want to finally say thank you very much to all these people, Dino, Andreas, Dee Sharon, Annie Fleur, Jamie, Wikipedia, Nathan, Andreas, the Opti Project, Tim Green, Jose Manuel, Jasun, Polades, Mark, Sarah, and Sharon Pruitt again. These folks all took the decision to share their images under a Creative Commons license or a public domain license. They were the ones who allowed me to layer my own thinking on top of those fantastic images, and they made up this presentation. Thank you very much for your time.